Greetings. Welcome to my channel. This is Lylantz, Gothic artist, and I'm here to talk about the beauty of horror. Now, I know that may sound like a very intriguing way to start a video, but since a young age I've always been fascinated by how much the mind can endure. And in this case, we're going to be talking about, from the sake of media, but also maybe how real life experiences can factor into that. When I was a kid, I was exposed to a lot of horror movies. And, growing up, it wasn't always easy to watch, movies of different kinds, which probably opened my brain to a lot of things that I probably wasn't ready for at a young age. But the older I get, I can say I don't regret it. I look back and I feel more resilient. I feel more purposeful. I feel more aware. And I feel more in tune with myself. And that, and as a result, has led to me creating art of such a medium, art that explores the trenches of one's psyche, the darkest corners, the parts that necessarily we like to remain untouched, unbothered, but yet those parts are the most scathed, the most tormented, and the most fragile. Unless you reinforce it. Now, I'm one person, wholeheartedly I support the idea of always reinforcing the psyche, because the psyche, you are what you eat and you are what you consume, but you also are what you train yourself to be. We're capable of becoming literally whoever we put our minds to. And, we all start from a different standpoint, different place in the game. Different cards are dealt to different people. However, a keen mind can work its way to just about anything that's feasible in the physical realm, for lack of better words. And myself, I've always been an imaginative person. Always reading, growing up, always drawing, always using the creative part of my mind. And a wise man once said, creativity is the highest form of mental functioning. Paul Torrance. And I believe that to be true, because using your brain in a creative manner inhibits it to a lot of stimuli and a lot of processes in which churn your brain. Is kind of like a deep tissue massage, and really working out what makes us think, working out what the furthest capabilities our thinking can take us, because most of the things that we have today around us are invented, and somebody had to be creative to bring such into the world. Now, some people create daisies, some people create practical things, some people create weapons, some people create, there's a realm, a plethora of what one can create, and that takes a mind that is focused in one thing enough to bring into fruition from zero. Now, I'm talking about creating yourself into a more resilient person, a more aware, keen, fit person for this world, we'll say. And I believe at least media, horror media to be exact, can yield such results. And I say this because when I was younger, I was a little more self-contained. I was social. I had, neighborhood friends. I was homeschooled up until 6th grade, so I spent most of my time engulfed in art, my studies, and personal affairs. But I felt I was a bit too. I was lacking something. I was lacking an edge. An edge that was necessary to help, cut through the cracks, to push through the crevices. And I found such a remedy to overcome those drawbacks in horror media. And this wasn't something I intentionally sought out. It all happened inadvertently, or by proxy, one could say. And it's kind of like, I would call it an acquired taste. The first time I remember being truly scared by a movie was when, and this honestly wasn't even a movie, it was just a cover. Like, there was a cover of The Ring, my family's home. And I just remember seeing, the cover, the girl, her hair just in her face, old VHS footage, that type of distortedness. I was just scarred for, let's just say, weeks, But after those weeks went by, I would look at the cover again and again, and I would become less emotionally charged, less frightened. And I just learned later on that that's just desensitization. We ourselves become desensitized to things that we're frequently exposed to, and for better or for worse, that's to be determined by, the beholder, but by what you need to survive in your life. I'll say that frequent exposure for me has created more peace in my life. More peace in the sense that it's like working a muscle, but in this case, a cerebral muscle. And that muscle is, like I've been saying, resilience, teaching oneself to be able to look in the face of something so shattering, so tormenting, frightening, even to the point that you are the one in control of how you feel. That thing has no power over you. Because truthfully, we are more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. Or at least that's how I view myself. And that is exactly how you could be, if that's something you would seek. I believe we have so much untapped potential, and a lot of that potential comes from a place of fear. And I've learned that erasing, now, disclaimer, there's a such thing as healthy fear, the fear that, is for survival. When you may feel that someone's walking behind you, so you look over your shoulder. That fear is necessary, but not fear that, withholds progress. That is, I would say, it's a waste of time. It's an illusion. And I'm all for erasing the illusions, erasing the facades that we create for ourselves. Because honestly, you should become the fear. Now, with that being said, become the things that you are maybe afraid of becoming, I would say. Because a lot of people, we're afraid to put ourselves out there. We're afraid to do stand-up comedy. We're afraid to tell someone how we feel. We're afraid to ask for a raise. All of these things, but why? Now, before you answer that, don't. Just listen. Once we repeatedly expose ourselves to something, like I previously stated, we in turn desensitize ourselves to it. And over a period of time, if you doing the things that you fear, becoming that person that you're probably too afraid to become, there's always that little voice in the back of your head that says, well, what if I did that? What if I took that risk? Who would I be after that? Yes, you have to desensitize your mind to the fear that holds you back in life. It's not worth it. It's not. So I've learned through horror media, I use it as an exercise to train my mental, to train my emotional regulation to the point that I'm in charge of it. If I can sit through something willingly that causes me discomfort, I can go out in the real world and do pretty much whatever floats my boat. And I say this of years of sitting, learning, being patient with myself, but sometimes hurling myself into the abyss. But at the end, it brings a sense of peace, at least for me. But like I said, I wasn't always like this. It was a gradual descent into darkness, if you will, but darkness within itself isn't a negative. It's just a lack of light. And everything is bred in the dark. Even the most beautiful things. Never get that confused. So here I stand. And there's multiple periods of my life where I will sit and I will seek out things that I'm afraid of, and I will subject myself to them as an exercise. The same way your muscle is torn down when you work out. Those micro tears and how they rebuild slowly over time is what creates a stronger muscle, a more defined muscle. And you can do that with your brain and your psyche. When you sit through something that causes a strong reaction, sure, at first it may be hard to swallow, it may be a lot to take in, but gradually over time you eventually find yourself a bit more seasoned, I'd say. But now that's not to say don't desensitize yourself to the point of not having empathy. Always keep those feelings, those emotions in check, and allow yourself to feel things, allow yourself to feel new emotions, but never allow yourself to feel lack of love, the lack of, understanding. When you watch something that makes you uncomfortable, I think it's important to put yourself in that person's shoes, that character situation, understand the movie from a psychoanalytical standpoint. But analyze why you feel those things, where those things come from, and how you can use those emotions to power through your darkest battles. Not necessarily getting into specifics, but there have been movies, videos, even podcasts of which I've sat through, and afterwards I felt shaken, I felt disturbed, and I felt confused, sad. The longest I've probably felt that was probably for like a month straight. Like I just felt empty after something I've seen. And this is fiction, you know. There's real life stuff that can last longer too. However, what I'm trying to get across is that after the period of disdain and emptiness passes, comes a sense of clarity. After you work out in the gym and your muscles are sore, but later you see them develop, and so on and so forth. That's the cycle, the cycle of regeneration, the cycle of regeneration, the cycle of rebirth, the cycle of transformation. When the phoenix is burning, broken down into ashes, but reborn anew, that's what we need to subject ourselves to. It's for the betterment of you, but it's also on a grand scheme for the betterment of society, because I feel the problem lies within a person who is not willing to put themselves in uncomfortable situations. Because the more uncomfortable you have felt by your own accord, at least speaking from personal experience, I'm able to put myself in the discomfort of others. I'm able to understand, maybe what they're feeling. Now, I will say, whilst putting yourselves in other people's shoes, it's important to have a sense of your own boundary, your own limits of maybe what you stand for in your life, what you accept. That is important. Yet, it's always important to at least understand why something is happening. And the more things you expose yourself to, the more media you expose yourself to that puts you out of your comfort zone, from, anecdotal experience, I can say it's helped me understand the world a bit more. Whether it's a true crime documentary or whether it's literally a slasher, a psychological thriller, something, but it helps me understand the inner workings of what brings upon such, but what can also be a response to remedy the torment. Because let's put it this way, it's kind of like a crash course in like what would you do in this situation, but also how can you avoid this situation. When you see a video of, let's say, Taken, the movie Taken, Liam Neeson, you're like, damn, well, I saw what happened here. How can I avoid this? Or what would I do if I were Liam? And that's just a basic example, but that applies to a plethora of things, a plethora of situations, and placing myself in those various situations, it's helped me develop a discernment, an unwavering discernment. And in this life, it is imperative to be able to discern, because we're receiving tons of information by the minute, and sometimes a lot of decisions need to be made in a split second. But when you're spent thinking, but when you spend your time thinking and overthinking, sometimes that moment flashes by, but you don't want it to be too late. You want to be prepared for every eventuality. So why not reinforce yourself for it? So what I've done in the past is I will literally search what is the most disturbing thing I can watch right now? What is the most sad? What is the most haunting? What is the most troubling? And I sit and I watch and I learn. I'm a student of life. We're all learning every single second. And what I've learned is that it's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel sad. But what's not okay? To ignore those feelings. But also, learning to recognize them within yourself and within others creates a sense of emotional awareness that without, I feel it creates a empty life, and a life void of emotions to me is a life, you know, probably worth going back to a drawing board for. And I enjoy psychology. I enjoy the study of why we do the things that we do. And I I had to study myself, understand like, well, why do I like to watch, you know, dark media and find the meaning in it, the hidden beauty. The hidden beauty isn't the pain, but the hidden beauty is the reinforcement of one's psyche, the resilience. It's a beautiful chaos. It's its own conundrum. I implore you to take a dive into the deep end for once, into the abyss. Gaze unto it, and it will gaze back onto you. Nietzsche, paraphrased, and the abyss can be beautiful. The abyss can be welcoming. The abyss can be frightening, but nevertheless, the abyss is there. So why not explore it? Find out what it holds for you. If you like this video, if you gained any insight from this, I'm just speaking from personal experience. I plan to expand upon a few matters in the future. But it's just a little introductory crash course into, I guess, my psyche. And I hope it can be a chance for you to explore yours. Like, comment, share your thoughts, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching.